This show is brought to you by the All Pro Nation Radio Network. Be sure to like and subscribe and check us out online at allpronation.com, where fans have a voice.
Hello, it's time for episode 14. Today we're going to talk some NCAA. Villanova wins the national championship. Talk a little NFL. Rams and Patriots making a trade. The NBA, the Sixers continue to roll, but the Cavaliers keep pace. The Sports Greeks podcast for the week is coming up right now. Hello and welcome to episode 14 of the podcast. Coming to you here the first full week of MLB baseball here in the first week of April. So the weather's starting to get warmer and we're going to start seeing more and more baseball coming at you. So today we've got the NCAA stuff. We got the Villanova winning the national championship Monday. We got some NFL stuff for you, some MLB stuff, some NBA talk as well. The Philadelphia 76ers, currently probably the hottest team in the NBA, won their 11th straight last night. We'll certainly talk about that. So if you're coming to us through Apple Podcasts, through the Lips and Feed, or even through the APN Radio Network, we really appreciate you listening. You can follow me on Twitter at BigGreek24. Our Facebook page is The Sports Greek. And, of course, I also submit articles through allpronation.com and phillysportsblogs.com. So we finished off last week, went up to opening day up in Citi Field in New York to see the Mets take on the Cardinals. Noah Syndergaard, an outstanding performance, 10 strikeouts over 6 innings. Great atmosphere up there. The weather did not really cooperate all that much. It was a little cold and drizzly, but didn't stop the fans from coming out, and it was just an outstanding experience, as it always is up there. It's a great stadium to go to. As much as I like to go to Citizens Bank Park and everything, I do enjoy going up to Citi Field. It's a different ballpark, very, very nice. And, again, we saw an outstanding game. Again, 6 innings pitched by Syndergaard. So let's talk a little bit about the NCAA stuff. Congratulations to Villanova winning their second national championship in 3 years. Congratulations to Jay Wright, the head coach, and the ball club. I got to watch them completely dismantle Kansas over the weekend. The 16-point final really didn't even describe just how lopsided that game was. And I know Michigan had to come back to beat Loyola. But watching the 2-1 seeds, Villanova and Kansas playing, watching Villanova just completely just dismantle this team, just told me on that day that there was just no way Villanova was going to lose the championship game unless they just completely utterly went cold. I know Michigan has a great defense. And Monday night, Michigan started out hot, and they're kind of bottling up Villanova. But then Dante's Inferno came in. Dante DiVincenzo, local kid from my hometown here in Wilmington, Delaware. Went to the same high school that I did, Salesianum School for Boys here in Wilmington, Delaware. He went off 37 minutes, 31 points, was 5 out of 7 from the three-point line. Completely turned that game around as Villanova cruised 79-62 to win their second national championship in just 3 years. Unbelievable run for them. Best run in the school's history, actually. You don't think of Villanova as a national power, so to speak. That's always reserved for Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, and insert your favorite basketball factory there. So those are what we normally see as powers. And to see Villanova do this, and I actually heard that, I think it was from John Feinstein, said that Villanova over the last 5 years has won more games, more NCAA games than any other team in that span in NCAA history. The issue is that you're always rated on how you do in the tournament, and so they had some exits, some early exits in that 5 years. Last year they had an exit as well, much earlier than they would have liked. So it's not, they've got the 2 championships, but nobody, remembers the great seasons these teams have if they don't win it all. And in Villanova's case, Jay Wright's done a phenomenal job with that program. I know he got off to a bit of a rough start when he first took over the program in Villanova, but certainly these last few years have just been outstanding. And again, for the city of Philadelphia, and I know this is a college thing and everything, but for the city of Philadelphia, Villanova wins the national championship. Penn State wins the NIT. The Eagles have won the Super Bowl. We're going to talk about the Sixers. They're certainly on a fantastic run going into the playoffs. The Flyers are going to go to the playoffs. Really, the Phillies are the only team that, although could theoretically contend for a wild card, and that's a very big long shot. All the other teams in the city are doing well, and it really bodes well for the going down the road here for the sports teams in Philadelphia. That's some fresh NFL news. I'm sure everybody's aware the Patriots traded wide receiver Brandon Cooks, who last we saw getting helped off a field when he had absolutely no idea where he was after getting laid out in the Super Bowl. He's off to the Rams for their first-round pick, which is the 23rd overall pick of the draft. Looks like the Rams are absolutely doubling down on this season. They've now traded their first-round pick. They traded their second-round pick for this year last year. To get 1 year of Sammy Watkins, who's now gone. They traded, I think, their third-round pick to get Marcus Peters. I also believe they've are without a fourth-round pick as well. I'd have to actually look that one up. But it seems like they're absolutely doubling down. They've got Aqib Talib, who was a fantastic player in Denver, questionable character guy. Ndamukong Suh's coming in. Again, same thing. Big contract signed in Miami, low production. Now they've got Cooks. Everybody's now thinking that the Rams are going to be the favorites in the NFC. And, you get these wonderkin coaches. They have a great first year, as did McVay out there. He did a tremendous job with the Rams, although it makes you wonder, was he really that great a coach, or was Jeff Fisher just that bad a coach the year before, taking pretty much the same team and turning in what they turned it into last year. Did not have a good playoff game against Atlanta. Jared Goff didn't play very well, and they ended up getting knocked out in their first playoff game. But it seems like they're doubling down, and that's tough to trade all that draft capital and come out with nothing. I mean, Sammy Watkins just was there for a year, and now they're going to go out and get Cooks. And Cooks had a nice year with the Patriots last 1,000-yard receiver. But unfortunately, ran into Malcolm Jenkins, and it was an unfortunate hit, but legal. Cooks was trying to make a move and just didn't see him coming, and they collided, and he got knocked out of the game, and that changed the scope of the Super Bowl a little bit. That's for sure. But I'm not convinced that this is going to work out for the Rams, to be honest with you. Ndamukong Suh is going to be having to learn a whole new defense. Is going to be, I think, the sixth or seventh coordinator he's had to work under now in the past 6 seasons. His best years were in Detroit, obviously, with Jim Schwartz, and Gunther Cunningham was the defensive coordinator there. But we'll see. He's not the last couple of years, he played most of his snaps in a 4-3. The Rams use a 3-4. So we'll see what, as they call him, son of bum, Wade Phillips will do with this defense. But I've seen this before. The Eagles did it. They doubled down, signed all these free agents to 2011 season, and it completely blew up on their face. And I think they went 8-8 that year, 4-12 the next year, and they had a new head coach in 2013. So, I mean, they had Nnamdi Asomugha they brought in, Vince Young. They brought in all kinds of free agents and trying to make something happen, and it completely imploded. And, sometimes these things will work for a year, and then the second year is when it really goes bad. So we'll see what happens. The line looks pretty good with Sue and Aaron Donald up there. Cooks will add, obviously, a lot of excitement to the passing game. They've got a fantastic running back there as well. So, we'll see. We'll see how it works out. I'm not a big fan of this, we make this many moves when you've kind of built something that they had. They had chemistry, and they had a really solid year last year. It just seems like it's a little bit overkill. Now, on the other hand, this is why New England is where they are. This kind of deal. So let's roll this back. Patriots trade the first pick last year for Cooks. So they traded the 32nd pick in the draft last year to New Orleans. They got Brandon Cooks. Okay, so they get the services of Brandon Cooks for a year, and then flip him for the 23rd overall pick. So in a year, they move up 9 slots, right? They go from 32 to 23 in the pick they traded, and got the services of a really an outstanding wide receiver for a full year. Bravo, Bill Belichick. That's all I can say about that. So this is why the Patriots are where they are every year. A, they play in a crappy division, which helps, and 2, they find suitors to make deals like this. So again, I'm not putting the Rams up on the top of the top. Let's see what they do. Here are a few things you got to learn about the Rams. They snuck up on people last year. There was nobody in the world that was picking the Rams to win that division going into training camps and into the preseason. It wasn't happening. And I know they weren't picking the Eagles either. So the Rams snuck up on everybody, okay? So now they've got to play a first-place schedule. And, yes, I know the Eagles do too, and the Eagles have a tough schedule this year. And as the Super Bowl champions, how many of those games they're playing this year do you think are actually going to be 1 or 4 o'clock games? They're going to be playing Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night. They're going to be all over the place because as the Super Bowl champs, the networks are going to want them on, especially if they get off to a good start. So the Rams got to play a first-place schedule this year, as will the Vikings. And as much as I do like the Vikings, great defense, got some nice offensive weapons. Kirk Cousins, if nothing else, is a guy that definitely throws for a lot of yards. We'll see if the touchdown numbers can get up a little bit because, for all the yards he throws for, to not ever throw for 30 touchdowns is a crime. So we'll see if that changes in Minnesota. But even they're going to have their not their issues, but, they could get a challenge from the Packers. Aaron Rodgers is going to be back healthy. I don't know what kind of challenge it'll be. I think the Vikings are the better football team, but you can never count out a team that's got a quarterback like that. And that's the Aaron Rodgers factor. And we'll see what happens, but I still think the Vikings are the best team potentially in the NFC. I think the Eagles are right there as well. I don't think they've done anything to not earn that. But the problem with the Eagles is we don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how healthy Carson Wentz is going to be and when he's going to be back. Don't know what Nick Foles will do if he is the starter on opening day, how many games he'll have to play. Will it be Nick Foles of the playoffs of this year, or will it be Nick Foles, less than average NFL starter that we've seen before? So, there's been a turnover on the coaching staff in Philly, so he doesn't have his I don't want to call them safety blankets, but DiFilippo's gone and Reich's gone. So, we're going to have to see how this all works out. But for me, the Vikings are the team I would be having favored to go to the Super Bowl. I think the Rams' moves are nice, but I also think they could really backfire because Talib is a head case. Peters, certainly, Andy Reid want nothing to do with him. He's a moron too. Dominican Sue, how much more do you want to say? The guy gets fined. He did cheap shots, late hits, stepping on players, kicking players. You don't need that. And how well is McVay going to deal with this? This is his second year there. Okay, and I'm not saying that he's going to be Ben McAdoo, who had a playoff year one, and then year two it completely comes apart on him. I'm not saying that, but you get some of these guys that are not known for their high moral values or their character. Things can change in a second, and in the NFL, things can change in a New York minute. Pardon the pun there. You have teams all the time that go 12-4 one year. You get an injury or two. Next thing you know, you're 3-13. Talk to the Giants about that. 11-5 one year. Were they 4-12 last year? And suddenly you're picking, third, fourth, or fifth in the next draft, and you didn't expect that to happen. So we'll reserve judgment on that. But great move by the Pats. In all honesty, great move because Bill Belichick, if for nothing else, Bill Belichick is a guy that seems to be able to get a lot out of very little. And the one thing I will say, Cooks, wonderful wide receiver. They had Randy Moss through it, but they didn't win Super Bowls with those guys. You go back and look at the Super Bowls they won, and the wide receiver core on those teams was very underwhelming. So Belichick seems to get a lot out of very little. Always has, probably will continue to do that. So to me, this is just a fantastic trade for them. So going off into the NBA, the National Basketball Association, they're winding down. Most teams have 4, maybe 5 games left to play. And, you've got Houston in the West. You've got Golden State in the West. Toronto and Boston are really doing great things in the East. The Cavaliers are starting to kind of get their legs under them a little bit too. But who's the best team you probably haven't really paid attention or heard about? It's the Philadelphia 76ers. 11 straight wins as of last night, and now they're playing without their best player, Joel Embiid, who last week against, I believe it was the Knicks, ran into a teammate Markelle Fultz, broke a bone in his eye socket, had surgery. We'll see when he comes back. There's no real timetable. It could be 2 to 4 weeks. He could end up having to miss that first series, but 11 straight wins, and the funny part about it is they win 11 straight games, and they still can't get past the Cavaliers for third place in the conference. That is just unbelievable to me. But they dispatched the Knicks last night by 26, 25 points, 121-95, I believe it was. 8 guys in double digits. Simmons and Ilyasova was two guys who both had double-doubles, double-digit points, double-digit rebounds. Simmons didn't even play the fourth quarter, so he actually probably could have gotten another triple-double. He was only a few assists away. Fultz is getting more playing time. The one thing not having Embiid is bad as it is it's getting the rest of the roster a lot of playing time, a lot of minutes, and a lot of experience, which could come in handy when they come off the bench in the playoffs. The sad thing is the Sixers, they go to Detroit tonight, game they should win. Then you have the showdown against Cleveland on Friday night at home in Philly. Unfortunately, no Embiid, and that's a shame because I think with Embiid, that's a game they could win. It's still a game they could possibly win. They beat the Cavs on the road, but they had Embiid that night. But that's the showdown. That's the game for third place. And I think they finish the season against Milwaukee. But the Sixers have a game in hand. Cleveland and the Pacers both have 4 games left. The Sixers have 5. The Sixers at this point can finish no worse than 5th in the conference. They can still move up to 3rd. They can't touch 2. Obviously not going to touch 1. But they can still finish 3rd. They can just stay 4. They're a game and a half ahead of the Pacers. They can just hold them off. They'll get home court for that first series. And I'm telling you, home court for the Sixers, even if they don't have Embiid for a couple of those games, they win that series. I absolutely believe it. I don't know what will happen after that, and I really don't care, but that's it. And I'll tell you another thing. If Brent Brown is not the NBA Coach of the Year, then there should be a congressional investigation. If nothing else, this guy should be the Coach of the Year just because he had to endure the pit of misery for about the last 3 or 4 seasons while the Sixers put the most uncompetitive product on the court that was possible and charged NBA prices, which was a travesty in of itself. However, it has paid off. You've got Embiid, you've got Simmons, you've got Fultz. Yes, you missed on Okafor. Okay, it happens. Not everybody's a guarantee when you pick them, but they seem to have hit on Fultz. He's looked good since coming back, getting assists, getting minutes, scoring points. Looked pretty good last night. But that guy should be the Coach of the Year because, a lot of people figured the Sixers would be in the bottom of the playoff bracket in the conference, like a 7-8 seed probably, winning 39, 40 games. Well, here they are already at 47. Okay, they have a shot at 50. And just like I don't think anybody had the Eagles winning 13 games this year, stand up if you had the Sixers winning 50+. And finishing 4th, maybe getting a home court in the first round of playoffs. There's no way. There's just no way anybody saw that coming. An 11-game winning streak, by the way, is the first time since 1990 that's happened. And you got to go back. That's when Charles Barkley was playing for the Sixers. Okay, so that's they're in rare air right now, and they're hot. They're hot at the right time. If they can just somehow get Embiid in there for that first round, I think they'll win it easily. The second round is going to be tough, and that's where they could get knocked out, unfortunately. But things are looking up for the Sixers. The future is very bright there with the team they have right now. The young stars, call them the dynamic duo, Embiid and Simmons. It's just fantastic to watch, I tell you. And I'm going to probably create basketball blasphemy here, but also at that game, the Sixers game, Dr. J came out to ring the bell. Ring the facsimile of the Liberty Bell before every game. They have some celebrity or sports hero or whatnot. So Dr. J, former Sixer, comes out to do it last night. They showed his highlight reel. I got to tell you, and I've seen Dr. J play, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan. I've seen LeBron. I've seen Kobe. I got to tell you, in his prime, I don't think anybody could hold Dr. J's jockstrap. And watching those highlights last night, even in his early 30s, the stuff he was still doing, the cradle dunk, the leaping from the foul line and slamming the ball home. It just was so and he played great defense too. It wasn't just a scorer. He could play good defense too. And a lot of Philadelphia fans, I'm sure, remember to square off with him and Larry Bird, one of those games. But Dr. J was amazing. Doc was, and unfortunately, he played in the ABA for the first few years of his career before coming to Philly. And Dr. J was Michael Jordan before Michael Jordan, LeBron James before LeBron James. And I know he only won one NBA championship. He won a few ABA championships with the Nets. And I don't care how many titles LeBron wins. I don't care how many Kobe won. For me, Dr. J was probably the best player I ever saw actually play live, and I have seen them all. And again, that's probably basketball blasphemy in some way, shape, or form. There are people older than me that swear that Wilt Chamberlain was probably the best or Bill Russell. But I tell you, Dr. J was something special. And I think that the things he did created the Michael Jordans, which then created the Kobes and the LeBron James. But to me, Dr. J was that pioneer, that guy that was just a highlight reel every time he stepped onto the court. He could take over a game at any time, Dr. J could. And it was just great to see him on the court last night. But yeah, when they rolled that highlight film, I kind of forgot. It's been a while. I mean, he retired in the late '80s. It's been a long time, and just to see those highlights again was just unbelievable to see him. I mean, his craft and his work was just unreal. And so on to Major League Baseball we go. Okay, so mid-opening day, Citi Field, Mickey Callaway, the new manager of the Mets, gets his first win. Pretty easy game for them. They beat the hell out of Carlos Martinez. I don't know what happened to him. He did not look good. So we'll see how much better he fares in his next outing. Syndergaard looked outstanding. 10 strikeouts, 6 innings. Gave 2 home runs. One to, I believe it was Molina hit a home run and Jose Martinez hit the other one. So, and the Mets are kind of cruising along right now. They're like 3-1 and played as we're recording this, they'll play their second game against the Phillies. It'll be Aaron Nola and Noah Syndergaard up at Citi Field at, I believe, 1 o'clock. But speaking of Aaron Nola and speaking of the Phillies, their new manager, Gabe Kapler, didn't exactly have as good a time on opening day as Mickey Callaway did. Should have been. They were up 5-0, and it was in the 6th inning. And but Gabe Kapler decided, and Gabe Kapler, to preface all this, is a very analytical guy. He's an out-of-the-box thinker. He's going to do things a lot differently. We've seen it with the lineups already. He didn't start Odubel Herrera on opening day. Jorge Alfaro is their starting catcher, but he didn't start for the first 2 games. He used Knapp behind the plate. But Aaron Nola is up 5-0. It's a 6th inning. They even let him bat, which he ended the inning, as a matter of fact, which they could have gotten more runs. But they're up 5-0 down in Atlanta. And I said a man on and Freddie Freeman up, and Gabo with the analytics, and pulls Nola, who was cruising, who was dominant, who until Arrieta comes in, which should be Sunday, is your de facto ace. And he takes him out after 68 pitches. 68 pitches, goes to the lefty, wants the lefty-on-lefty matchup with Freeman. Freddie Freeman, it's, I don't know if it was the first pitch you saw, but crushes a 2-run homer, so now it's 5-2. About 5,000 pitchers later, Nick Markakis is hitting a 3-run bomb in the bottom of the ninth to break up a tie game at 5 and win the game 8-5. So, didn't take but 1 game for Gabe Kapler to prove my point, to everyone who thinks the Phillies are a borderline playoff team. We're going to win high 80s, whatever you want to say. He already cost him 1 game. And then you get the embarrassment of Saturday where you've got come out to pull your pitcher and you don't have anybody ready. Nobody was warming up. So that set off a tremendous, trigger of events, so to speak. And you have to let a position player finish the game because you run out of pitchers. The other problem I have with the opening day situation is, Noel's only pitched 68 pitches. We didn't know this watching the game or hearing the game on the radio, but Kapler knew Neshek wasn't available, and Neshek subsequently went on the disabled list. He had a lat issue, I believe. So you already that your bullpen is short by a man, and you still go out there, after letting the guy hit, you still go out there and get him after 68 pitches. And not his fault that the result didn't work. Not his fault that the bullpen completely crapped the bed. It is his fault for overmanaging, though. Who cares if Nola gives up a 2-run home run to Freeman up 5-0? Well, what really would have been the harm? Maybe he gets the next couple of guys out. You're out of the inning. It's 5-2 anyway. So now you've taken out your stud, and then you've got Hobie Milner was the pitcher. He's a lefty. I'm sorry, but in those situations, do you want your guy that's dominant pitching, or do you want to go with a lesser guy who's really just a one-out lefty specialist? Didn't get the job done anyway. And Hobie Milner was in the middle of the controversy on Saturday. Nobody communicated out to the bullpen that he needed to warm up. So I guess when Kapler came out and tapped the arm, Milner very quickly took off the warm-up jacket and started throwing some tosses, and then came out. And Major League Baseball rules, I think you have to have the pitching change done in about 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Jerry Lane was the home plate umpire. He saw what happened, and rather than try and let him pitch without being fully warmed up, he allowed him to get his normal warm-ups in on the mound, which caused the Braves manager to come out and argue. After that was done, he got tossed. And quite honestly, I think the Braves were up 7-2 at that point. What the hell are you arguing for? Who cares? In all seriousness, who gives a damn about that? You're up 7-2. Sit down. Shut up. The umpire's protecting the player, which is absolutely the right thing to do. Yes, the Phillies blew it. It's inexcusable to have that happen, but I think that the umpire handled that exactly the way it should have been handled. You don't ever want to get a player, because it's not the player's fault. It's the manager's fault. It's coaching staff's fault for not having him warming up. So for Snitker to come out and argue that is Bush. Sorry. And because, same thing could happen to him. You can say all you want, it'll never happen. But, all he's done now is make for the next time, if it were to happen to one of his players, have the umpire say, yeah, you know what, dude, sorry. Rule's a rule. He's got to throw. But evidently Major League Baseball is going to have a little conversation with Gabe Kapler about that. So here's some historical firsts for Gabe Kapler already. Okay, we're just 4 games into the season. The Phillies are already 1-3. Most pitchers ever used in the first 2 games of a Major League season. Earliest ever that a position player has had to come in and pitch in a Major League game. That's great. So there you have those. So we'll see. I'm not one of the ones on the radio calling in saying fire the guy. Let's see if he learns from this stuff. Because at the end of the day, innovation is good. You like innovation. You like guys that do things differently, as long as it's not like way out there. I mean, everybody saw the Moneyball movie. Who believed Billy Beane was actually gonna succeed in the early 2000s with literally no payroll after he lost Giambi and Damon? I know they had great pitching. I get that, but they still had to go out and replace those guys with very little money. And I tell you what, he did it, and he won a lot of games. He didn't get out of the first round of the playoffs, but he won a lot of games. And you could argue that mindset propelled the Red Sox to their first World Championship in 2004. So you have a lot of out-of-the-box thinkers. You look at Joe Madden, using a guy like Ben Zobrist when he was in Tampa, now in Chicago, all over the diamond, second base, third base, first base, the outfield. He's kind of moving the guy around, putting him in multiple positions to keep him in the lineup, but to also get other guys in the lineup, maybe against pitchers that they would have some success against, and Madden's won a World Series. So let's reserve judgment on Gabe Kapler. However, no excuse for pulling Nola, okay? No excuse for what happened on Saturday night. And, quite honestly, I mean, the Phillies seem to be a fairly patient team at the plate. They're preaching some patience. They seem to be listening. We'll see what happens. But, the thing I don't like with Kapler, some of the things I hear is like he's done lineups like 10 games in advance, stuff like that. This isn't Stratomatic. You cannot just sit there and look at the matchups and go, okay, well, this is my lineup here, this is my lineup there, this is my lineup there. And you've got to be able to adapt inside the game. This guy sits down and I think just thinks of every possibility that could occur throughout a game and tries to have an answer for it. But the problem is, in the moment, he's not quite getting it done. And like that's the issue. That's the issue you have with rookie managers. In Boston on opening day, and they're 5-1. It's the only game they've lost. They pulled Sale. I think it was in the 6th inning, but he had thrown like 92 pitches. And their bullpen blew up as well. But, much different situation. Nola was cruising, and, Kapler just overmanaged. And we'll see what happens if given the same circumstance again, what he does. And what he does with Nola. His excuse was that he knew he'd have a long season, expecting Nola to pitch a lot of innings this year, had a 9-man bullpen, and we're going to go with the matchups. Okay. He gave us the logic, which I don't think sounds bad. But you're up 5-0. one more batter there, I don't think it's going to really hurt you. So we'll see what happens with Kapler. I don't think there's any way he gets fired this year or at the end of the year. I think the Phillies are definitely committed to him. But I think if things don't change and if the Phillies keep spending money on players, this guy's gone by the All-Star break next year if it doesn't improve. And I'm not saying it's got to improve in the next week or month or whatnot, but if the Phillies continue to spend money on players, they brought in Santana, they brought in Arrieta, if they continue with this young nucleus of players they have that they're very excited about and should be, they spent money on Kingery as well. If they don't have a good year this year, and again, I still think they're a 76, 77 win team with a ceiling of 81, where other people think they're an 81, 82 win team with a ceiling of like 88, and I just totally disagree with that. So again, the Phillies have their question marks. You got the rookie shortstop, rookie outfielder, you got the rookie catcher, outfielder, a pitching staff that's pretty thin after Arrieta and Nola. We don't know what these other guys are going to give you, so we'll see. Again, I'm not saying fire Gabe Kapler, but let's give him some time, see what happens. Is anybody surprised the Red Sox are 5-1 in first place in the American League East? I'm not. To me, they're the best team in the division. Absolutely. All due respect to the Yankees, I think the Red Sox have superior pitching to the Yankees. I think their bullpen's better. I think the lineups are somewhat comparable. But the signing of J.D. Martinez really gave the Red Sox a big lift. They're able to play Hanley Ramirez at first base. They can use Mitch Moreland against right-handers that maybe struggle against lefties. A big lefty power bat off the bench and a great defensive first baseman. And got to love their pitching. And I just think that they're going to be the team to beat in the American League East this year. I honestly believe that. And before we go, we want to talk a little about Ohtani out in L.A. Made his first start. He won his first start. Gave up 3 runs in 6 innings. Not a bad first outing. And, I think some folks are talking it up a little bit more than what it was. It was a good start. He gave up 3 runs in 6 innings. You'll see what he does the next time around. See what happens when the league adjusts to him. He had a home run in his first at bat yesterday. So, again, but let's not make this into more than what it is. He had an awful spring. Looked lost at the plate a lot of times and didn't look too good on the mound either. So let's see what happens, games going forward. You always have guys who are hotter than heck in the first month of the season that cool off. I can remember Tuffy Rhodes early in the season one year for the Cubs. Looked like a Hall of Famer, okay? And he completely crapped out the rest of the year. So, that's a beautiful thing about baseball, quite honestly. The adjustments and just how quickly what looks like a great player can just look average overnight sometimes. And that's the beauty of the sport. It's a long season. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So we'll see. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for a lot of these teams. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what the Phillies do. I don't like all the things that the Kapler's doing. I do not like the lineup juggling. I think you got to let players get settled in and stuff. But hey, I could be wrong. Maybe he's right. We'll see. I'm willing to wait it out a little bit. I don't think it was a good hire. I don't think Pete McCann did anything to deserve losing his job, but he did. They made the move. Now we got to live with it. So let's see what happens, and we'll see where it all leads. But it's going to be I think a great race in the American League East if Giancarlo Stanton can stay healthy in New York. I think that's going to be a fun ball club to watch. Also, I think the Red Sox are going to be an outstanding team. We'll see who else in that division can maybe make a little bit of noise. Is it going to be the Orioles, who won their opener on an Adam Jones walk-off shot, but they haven't won since? Going to be the Toronto Blue Jays. Smoke's been hot for the Jays at first base. Again, it's going to be interesting. Who's going to sneak up on the Astros or the Indians? Who's going to the Dodgers in the National League? The Giants look pretty good for a couple of games, and they got shut out the next 2 games. In the Central, the Cardinals suddenly, they look good. They always look good. The Cardinals are always there. The Brewers are good in the early part of the season as well. So, can they run with the Cubs for a full season? The Brewers couldn't last year. They tried, but the Cubs overtook them. So it's going to be an exciting year of baseball. You have Ohtani and see what he does over the full year as a pitcher and DH player. let's just see. We got a lot of excitement going on, and let's wait it out and see what happens. So that's going to do it for episode 14. I want to thank everybody for listening. Again, you can follow me on Twitter at BigRig24. Email address is victorlogo13@gmail.com. Sports Creek is the Facebook page. And, of course, don't forget about allpronation.com and phillysportsblogs.com. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your week and weekend. We'll do it again next week. Thanks again.